Dead Air True Crime.
Hello and welcome to the Dead Air Dudes. I'm Izzy.
I'm Raka. Thanks for joining us, Dead Air Dudes Nation.
Welcome back, Dead Air Dudes Nation, once again with another episode of the True Crime series. This time we have another serial killer for you guys, Samuel Little, who was supposedly the most prolific, arguably, serial killer in the United States. Raka, take it away.
A juicy little tidbit, when we were researching different serial killers to do case files on, Ted Bundy, Ed Gein, blah, 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 Izzy had come across this individual. And when relaying it to me and I did my own personal research, I was like, holy cow.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? When I saw the numbers.
Yeah, dude.
And I don't know why. I don't know why he doesn't. He's not as famous maybe as other people would know. A couple of people I have spoken to do know of him, know about him.
You know
but
why?
I did not, to be honest.
Do you know why?
And then when we filled in the blanks as to who he is, what he was about, his background story, and eventually his, I guess, self-incrimination. Wow. It's sobering.
Yeah. Basically,
it is quite sobering. So,
what I think
go ahead.
This issue, or reason why he's not as popular as your Bundys of the world and the Dahmers and all kinds of stuff, because A, he was pretty much under the radar, and B, he doesn't have that, and I hate to say this, that appeal factor that a lot of these other guys do. More of a nondescript guy who was, for the most part, the majority of his life, in and out of prison. I do believe 26 times, if I'm not mistaken, within 11. Yeah, it's 26 times in 11 different states. So, and he got caught as an old man. So, he was arrested in a homeless shelter September 5th, 2012 in Louisville, Kentucky. Then extradited to California to face a narcotics charge, after which authorities used DNA testing to establish that he was involved in the murder of Carol Elaine Elford, killed on July 13th, 1987. And Guadalupe Duarte Apodaca, and one second, and another person as well, which I'm trying to check my notes. Apologize. Audrey Nelson Everett. All three women were killed and later found in the streets of Los Angeles. DNA testing. Okay. All right. Do tell.
All right, so let's rewind a bit. Born on June 7, 1940. Yes, this individual is 80 years old, presently today in 2020. Yeah, born in Reynolds, Georgia, to a mother that he claimed was a prostitute.
Yep.
Soon the family moved to Lorain, Ohio, where he was brought up mainly by his grandmother. Then by 1956, he was convicted of breaking and entering to a property in Omaha, Nebraska. And he was held in an institution for juvenile offenders. So he was a juvenile delinquent at the age of 16. Thereafter, he moved to Florida to live with his mother in his late 20s, worked in various jobs, one of which was a cemetery worker. He worked as an ambulance attendant. He worked many odd jobs, and he began traveling more widely.
Which is where he started to run into the
crimes here and there. Right. So he's a tumbling weed.
Good word.
And as his story unfolds, I believe convicted of murders through 14 states that range from California to Florida, all the way as far north here as Ohio, New York, Pennsylvania, and of course sprinkled throughout the South, Louisiana. 14 states, mind you, 14 states in the period of, since 1956, a period of 60 years and
Great.
change.
I mean, 50 victims confirmed,
Yes.
93 confessed, as many as 200 suspected. So this guy was busy. I mean,
So
he was
what's this?
either in prison or committing these heinous acts.
I believe Ted Bundy's count, which probably was the most prolific until unseated by Samuel, I think was in the 50s. I'm not exactly sure with the number. But by Samuel Little's accounts, and as evidence coming forth more and more, he's reaching a credible, and this is by the FBI, a credible 93. 93. I mean, 7 shy of 100. And this is what he's fessed up to.
Exactly.
Maybe he lost count. I don't know. I can say this. On YouTube, and this is not a YouTube advertisement. On YouTube and posted is a CBS 60-minute special where they interviewed him. There's many interviews of his confessions. I am not a psychologist, but as a novice in the field, just observing, there's indifference in his voice.
Right.
There's an emotional detachment. He's just recounting what's going on. And as detailed by the Texas Ranger who eventually cracked the case and pulled him in and eventually opened all the cases back up that were mystery unsolved persons, Samuel Little went into great detail. And this is not verbatim, but he would say to the effect of, oh, in California, in this town, at that time, there was a Dairy Queen next to a water reservoir center and some weeds in the back where I dump X body.
Yeah.
They would investigate, and it was to the T.
Yeah, it was almost as if the man was proud and he took meticulous notes in his mind's eye. He also painted many of the victims, painted portraits.
On disturbing crayon and paper. He has some artistic ability. And as, again, the investigative team that they dove into his case were astounded. Mind you, please don't confuse it. I am not lauding this individual. I'm not praising him. But they were They were very, very, very taken back of his photographic memory.
Yeah, I mean,
the individual's name, the appearance, the locations, the death sites, the time, the place, the names.
Yeah.
Now, again, it must interest you if you're a person of any kind of salt of the earth. How a person can recount 93 crimes of murder and possible rape, most likely, and other abuses to exact T, and he sleeps well at night.
Right. And he is still sleeping well at night. He still
does not appear this bothers him.
He's an old man now, and he still recounts. He recounted all these things. It's again. I agree with
He's a sociopath of a different level.
I'm not trying to give him kudos, but it is quite amazing how some of these people, how it works, how their minds work. And I always found that fascinating. It just boggles the mind. And what gets me, which we went into it a bit with the Chicago Ripper crew, how a person, again, I'm going to give a little smack in the head to the justice system, how a person who was arrested 26 times for various offenses, including shoplifting, driving under the influence, fraud, solicitation, armed robbery, aggravated assault, and rape. He's not just freaking, you know, some of these things are serious. I mean, a rapist is not just someone you just release. Okay? So fine.
If,
He
if you
was
do, yes. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So and then he was released and all these freaking things. So you tell me that how many of these murders could have been avoided? Could have been if the due diligence was done and justice was served. I mean, it's crazy. It's in every single case. So far, we've deep dived in 2 cases, and in both accounts, it could have been stopped, could have been nipped in the bud early on.
I don't know how many times an individual has to go through the system on arrest for there to be all these red flags to go up. You're like, hey,
Right.
This individual cannot just be jaywalking, selling crack, driving under influence, even rape. And I'm sorry to interject before, but if someone were to dive into the federal standards and maybe state by state penalty for rape,
Right.
it's disturbing. I think it's like 9 years.
I mean,
And
look
then
at this.
for good behavior. It's like,
Before
are you serious?
yeah, let me just interject one thing. Look at this. All right. When he was in 84, he was arrested for kidnapping, beating, and strangling 22-year-old Laurie Barrows, who survived. 1 month later, he was found by police in the backseat of his car with an unconscious woman, also beaten and strangled in the same location as the attempted murder of Barrows. Little served 2.5 years in prison for both crimes. Are you effing kidding?
Are you freaking kidding me?
Two
I
and a
mean, we're
half
talking
years.
not to go on a political tangent here, but if you're a justice system that tries to rehabilitate people and release back into society redeemed individuals who learn how to behave in a moral and just way, you're out of your mind. 2 years?
Right.
Like, oh, hey, got slap on the wrist. You were good behavior in lockup. Have at it.
It's crazy.
I mean,
And as soon as he gets out, he moves to LA and he commits 10 murders. So really,
so
I mean,
I think it deserves note that the individual, the Texas Ranger.
yeah, let's go with that.
Let's go with that, because this is my first question when introduced to the subject matter of this individual in this true crime case file was, how was he finally apprehended? And they tagged him with not just statutory, they tagged him with murder so that they can finally get him off the streets. And then how it unfolded that a guy who has eluded that kind of charge, despite being incarcerated 26, 36, whatever times, got away with it. So finally, Texas Ranger James Holland, he was interviewing him. He was in charge of one of the crimes that of rape that Samuel Little was involved in. And in the interview, he mentioned over and over again that there was no real tangible evidence that he killed. The DNA and everything, yes, the rape. But how did he kill? So there was something in his gut. Now, again, there are some people out there that were built for justice. They're kind of like a detective hound. They have a nose for this stuff. I assume this Ranger, James Holland, is one such ilk. His gut kept telling him there's something here.
There's something more.
So every angle, he's got like 200 hours of interrogation time going nowhere. And on a gut reaction, he tried a different angle, which everybody out there should learn. Hey, just because you do it 100 times doesn't mean you won't crack that nut. try a different angle, try a different tool.
Exactly.
And so he said, you know what?
Different, just slightly different.
But, yes, exactly. So he said, you know what? I believe you. I believe you're not a rapist. And he said, for the first time, Samuel Little looked up at him, like, really? And he said something that was not scripted, rehearsed. It just came out naturally. It was, you're a killer. And that piqued his interest. And for the first time, the very first time, Samuel Little changed his tune. He looked at the Ranger differently. Because a common denominator with all these sick screwballs out there
Right.
is no matter how they fake it, how they front it, how they want the notoriety.
Exactly.
They want you to know they are mentally clever and superior to you. They got one over on you.
Exactly.
They did murder, did it, and got away with it.
Mm-hmm. They want
That's
you to
over and over again. Ted Bundy, name it.
Exactly.
So because he kind of hit that raw nerve of the ego,
better.
yes, and they want you to know it. I'm a bad boy. I don't just rape. I don't just shoplift. I don't just pass off counterfeit money. Oh no, I'm a cold ass killer. Now he worked out a deal that day and said, you know what? I'm not going to say more because he is a smart MF.
Well, look, you're not gonna freaking commit all these murders through 50 years and just be like, oh,
Self-incriminate.
I just got lucky. No.
But I guess he already knew that his gig is up. He's already at 80. But he's a very, very smart guy. So he demanded a letter. He demanded a letter from, I think, the Attorney General to say, I will not seek the death penalty on you in exchange for confessions of your crimes. And the Ranger himself kind of he played poker, right? And he said, yeah, I'll get it for you tomorrow, not knowing if he can actually obtain such a letter.
Right, of course.
He did such a job in the phone conversation to obtain the letter. The next day he had the letter, showed it to Samuel Little, and the canary started to sing.
Oh, that sounds like something out of a Law and Order episode. How you fake the funk and you freaking trick the guy to tell you something. It's crazy.
So, I mean, here's the thing. He may have been convicted one or two of those murders and slipped up here and there because nobody's perfect. But because of the way it played out with the Ranger, because of the negotiation, because he would not get the death penalty, but he got his these convictions and eventually gave these confessions.
Yeah.
What did you say? He's up to 50-something now, right? There's 93 murders out there of women who remain unsolved. And now, at least, there may not be such a thing as justice, but at least there can be some closure.
No, there has to be.
To what happened to individuals.
Like, depending on where you look, you can actually, and I'm not, by no means am I saying, to look it up so you can be all creeped out but people have made a list, and there's an actual list of people of the date of the murder, where it was, and obviously they don't have names or whatever, but these are the suspected murders that are unconfirmed that he said he did, and the list is insane. So
it's insane. It spans 14 states. He's got pictures along with names, along with sites, and by and large, everything he's saying has been coming up dead on.
Yeah.
No pun intended. And okay, so again, if you are tuning into this, you understand that this is the nature of the subject matter. It can get graphic, very graphic, but we cannot part one and not have the other.
No,
the majority of his victims are strangulation. Sometimes they're drug induced. There is violence involved. I don't know this individual's body makeup at the time of when he was a killer, maybe when he's younger, but he had to have some sizable strength because the majority of which are strangulation. He did mention that he did drown only one person, but the majority of which is strangulation. And in his very candid depictions of the murders act,
Yeah.
he made no bones about picking the marginalized and fringe demographics of society: prostitutes, drug users, drug abusers, down and out, poverty, because he believed they would not be missed, and so he would get away with it.
Yeah. Which
And
is,
by and large, he did.
yeah, but unfortunately, yeah, it's messed up.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's messed up. I mean, there's some
unnamed,
murders he committed 30,
black
35
people,
years
unnamed.
ago.
It's crazy.
It is sad. And again, I have to reiterate what Izzy said. A justice system that does not flag this individual, there's something wrong with it. There's really something inherently wrong.
And look, it's not because, you can say, and I'm not defending what happened with the again, bringing back the Chicago Ripper case, because it was in the early 70s. We're already in the 80s. You're talking about when this is happening, and not to mention, even if, how do you defend letting him loose for rape for 2.5 years and doing it again? And that's like, it's dumbfounding. Boggles the mind. It's dumbfounding.
Now, he never goes into any candid details why. He goes on to tell you how he picked his victims, where he did it, and he was quite savvy at locations, knowing there's no witnesses, there's no cameras. And this is going back before there was cameras everywhere. But there's no witnesses, cameras, there's desolate areas, marshlands, the back of abandoned buildings. But I mean, not that hard to do, but there's a calculating mind here.
Yeah.
A cold, unfeeling, calculating mind. Yet he does not, whether this matters or not, but yet he does not expound as to why.
Look, playing an amateur, psychologist here. I'm thinking, if it's true that his mother was a prostitute, okay, I have a feeling it goes back to that. It goes back to something having to do with his mother, in the sense that he's choosing all these victims within the supposed same profession that his mother was. Now,
Absolutely.
We don't know what happened in his young life or whatever, growing up. And honestly, who really gives a shit? Because he's a piece of crap. But it's it's interesting to see that there is a correlation there. Definitely is.
Oh, no doubt. And I wonder if we are at all privy to court psychological evaluations, or if that's something that's more private, because it would be interesting to see what their interpretation of his profile would be. And again, had it not been into his late 70s, had it not been for the legwork of, again, let me point out, we're not completely disparaging all police detective work, investigative work. It's a system. But you also have within the same system an individual such as this ranger who trusted his gut and kept pursuing that there's something else here. I got a bad feeling. There's something else here. And because of his diligence and his persistence and his different angles, he broke the case.
Yeah.
How this is not a made-for-TV movie, not to take a fantastic skew on this, but when the more I read on this, the more I was like, holy shit, you got to be kidding me.
It's
from his victims to the list, to the states, to his life, to how many years. I mean, you have many movies out there about serial killers that don't even come close to this demon.
No. If you look at, they have on the FBI website, they have a map of the United States, and it shows where it looks ridiculous how it's everywhere, all the murders.
Yeah, it's quite disturbing.
And the picture, like you said,
Basically, fully rogue
done by
country.
crayon, they're very specific, very detailed, and it's quite disturbing that he even had. It's crazy.
I mean, he did mention at some point that it was the easiest to commit murders in Florida and in California. I don't know what makes it exactly so easy, but as of now, the map, those are his most frequent places. And you talk about somebody who travels from coast to coast to commit these murders. So he goes on at some point to say, well, you know, I did it. I committed the murder. I did that. Left town. I mean, just a tumbling weed that goes from place to place, odd jobs. So he can't really be traced. And along the way, whenever I guess he feels in a moment and he could get away with it, he commits heinous crimes of rape, violence, and murder.
Yeah.
And in a serial fashion for the better part of his life.
I hope, because at the states here, he is in poor health and will actually stay in prison until his death, obviously. The goal now is to identify his victims and provide closure and justice in unresolved cases. You know, so
at the very least, you hope that can be the outcome.
Yeah, you hope that he stays alive enough so he can bring closure to all these unfortunate murders and everything, because that's what the families deserve.
No, pretty sad. You're talking about victims that, for the most part, have been living down and out lives almost all their lives, and then to meet their end at the hands of basically, let's call him for what he is. He is the bottom of the bottom feeders.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, he's just scraps at the bottom, knowing, you know what, no one's going to miss him. But he's wrong. And again, up there, anybody out there who's struggling, going through tough times, you may think you're at the bottom. You can get out. And it is not a good place at the bottom. So as much as you can't seek help and get out of the bottom, because there are piranhas and predators out there that love the bottom. You gotta get out. Luckily today, there's cameras everywhere and there's some vigilance in social media and whatever. But at the same time, maybe from a mental point of view and a spiritual point of view and an economic point of view, get the hell out of Dodge if you can. Shit gets real thick down there. And as evidenced by this individual, that really took us by storm, because I did not know of him. I was unaware of his existence.
Yeah, because it was that's the story of his life, that he was always under the radar. Like he said, he always took the people who, were, like he said in his words, undesirable, and committed these heinous acts on them, and just fell under, just under the radar until he got caught.
I can only assume that at the end of his life, or as he nears the end of his life, he was always under the radar, right? So maybe at some point he said, screw it. This is going to be my chance to be on top just once. I'm going to let everybody know what I did my entire life, and I got away with it. Even now, towards the end, this don't count. He did the evil acts that he did for the better part of his entire adult life.
Yeah, he did.
I mean, again, I don't care what serial killer out there.
He got one over.
Ego. Yeah, he got one over, but they all have a sick ego. And even towards the end, that probably did him in. crazy bat stuff. This was a very chilling true crime case file that really took me by storm, and I was pretty much aghast at every turn. And as I uncovered more material and we shared it, Izzy and I, we really were really shocked at the prolific, I guess, bevy of crimes and murders that this individual has committed.
I mean, there's a couple things also that I just that a couple of tidbits. I don't know if you want to get into them. Like he since then has done various interviews, and he almost in one interview he, be it for what it's worth, whatever, said that he was that he felt, and I'm not laughing, it's just crazy, that he felt commissioned by God to kill his victims, to alleviate their misery. And other times, he felt he was possessed by the devil. This is a quote, I never killed no senators or governors or fancy New York journalists, nothing like that, end quote. I stayed in the ghettos. That's it.
Thank you for small favors. I mean, what the hell?
Little methods. His method of killing started out by punching his victims out cold and then strangling them to death, with no bullet or stab wounds. It was difficult to detect foul play, and they called him something, which I'm not even gonna mention because it's messed up, and there's no point.
There's no need
to further glorify this POS.
So even in the end, he won, though, in the sense that he's able to go to his grave on his own terms and finagle his way out of the death penalty.
Yeah, like I said before, he won.
The majority of these serial killers are quite intelligent to a scary factor. I mean, quite intelligent to cover their tracks, to be 2 steps ahead, to know the limitations and to know how to, again, get out, do what I got to do, and move on. And it's really unfortunate. Intelligence is a sorry thing, sad thing to waste.
Yeah.
And this is just intelligence misdirected. Again, none of us can go back in time to his childhood or any moment that warped the tree in the path that it took. But at the same time, I don't like to use it as an excuse or anything for any of us. No, none of us really had, charming, blessed, silver spoon childhoods, and we're not serial killers. We grew up in New York City, and the both of us in not exactly easy hoods.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not out there doing this. All right. Any final thoughts? I think we summed it up quite nicely.
No, basically, final thoughts. I hope that they find they find the rest of the bodies, the rest of the cases, and he,
Absolutely. If the final
more,
is 93, we would love nothing less than all 93 unfortunate murders to be solved and the case closed, and any loved ones or just for the sad individuals who are victims to have their final story told of how things ended for them. And at the same time, I have no mercy. May this man die the most torturous death possible by natural means.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you have enjoyed this case today of true crime, of the prolific serial killer.
The most prolific serial killer in U.S. history so far. you know, and
That
hopefully.
wraps up our true crime episode number 2. And again, thank you, and thank you for subscribing, liking, leaving your comments, and following us at Dead or Dudes. You guys have made it possible for us to flourish and keep on trucking what you're doing, and keep on letting us know what you like, what you don't like, and how we can make things better, or what do you want to hear about.
Yeah, so just keep letting us know. If you continue to like these episodes, we'll keep bringing them to you. And yeah, so
And we hear you out there in France, and in Germany, and all across the world, and in Russia. You there too. We hear you. All you guys out there that are following, listening. We have a few listeners, dedicated listeners in Central America, South America as well. We love you all. Thanks for helping us grow. You are part of Dead Air Nation, Dudes Nation.
And thank you all, Dead Dudes Nation. And that's pretty much it. I'm Izzy.
I'm Raka. Peace out and save the whales. Don't kill nobody.
Take care, everybody. Take care.